What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Sports Religion YouTube channel. Today, we are going to be doing a 2025 Green Bay Packers mock draft. We are going to be doing a full 7-round mock draft because the guys over at PFF just upgraded the simulator to have 7 rounds, which is really nice. So the Packers start out sitting currently at the 27th overall pick. This is typical for the Packers. They always win enough games where they're at the back of the first round. And, Gutekunst usually takes a guy that he feels is more developmental at this spot rather than someone who's going to contribute right away. We've seen it for years. That's their philosophy, just kind of kicking the can down the road, making sure you have talent that's developing for the future. So the crop of guys that are up here, you really should look for an edge rusher here. The Packers' pass rush has been underwhelming at best, to say the least, this year. I mean, they just paid Rashawn Gary last season, and he comes on every once in a while, but you gotta see the production here to back up justifying paying him that much. So I'd like to get some more guys in that room. You'd like to have 4 pass rushers at least that you can, rotate in and out and be effective down to down. So I think that you have to look at those guys here. I mean, Tyler Warren would be a great addition to this tight end room. The guy, he can throw passes, he can run the ball and catch the ball all at the same time. I mean, kind of an underrated pick for the Packers here. Just the versatility of that type of player in this tight end room would go a long way, I think. But you just got to find an edge rusher here. And the guy that comes up to me is Shamar Stewart. And, the numbers aren't great. He only has 2 sacks on the season. But this guy is 6'6", 290 pounds. Like, that is just unbelievable size for an edge rusher. 6'6", 290 is just out of this world strength and speed combo. I mean, I was watching him during the Auburn game, and his first step is just unbelievable. It's up there with some of the best NFL players that are out there right now. You look at Nick Bosa's first step. It kind of reminds me of that. He's just elite. He's got elite quickness around the edge, and it gives tackles a really tough time. And I know, he's not necessarily a guy who's going to come in and contribute numbers right away, but the Packers really value those elite athletic tools that other guys might not have. And I think he would fit in perfectly with the mold of what this front office has really tried to do with this defense. You look at all of the edge rushers on the team; they're all much larger edge rushers like this. The Packers never really have a guy who's small on the smaller side of things as an edge rusher. So I think Shamar Stewart fits that mold perfectly about what they're trying to do there, and he adds just something different that this Jeff Hafley defense doesn't really have. And, if you look at the grades again, I mean, he's got an 86.9 run defense grade. I mean, the Packers really have struggled stuffing the run over the years. So you're getting a guy who has pass rush upside. I think the best is yet to come from him. We haven't really seen him develop a full set of pass rush moves yet. He's more he wins off athleticism, being the more athletic and bigger guy, around the edge than rather a set of pass rush moves where he can kind of counter whatever the tackle sets up as. So I don't see why you wouldn't try to get this guy in an NFL setting, coach him up, and make him an elite pass rusher at the NFL level. I think he fits perfectly for the Packers here. And you just don't see guys that can move like that at that size. I mean, I don't really see that in the NFL much anymore. There's not a lot of guys with that speed size combo coming into the league. So you got to kind of grab them when they're available. And if he's available at 27, absolutely take a shot on that. And he doesn't necessarily need to be good day one, but he's someone you can build your pass rush on going forwards. So the Packers' next pick is here at 59. And this draft, there's a lot of safeties and receivers in this draft. And the Packers, with their emphasis on safety last year in the draft, I just don't know that they're going to take a safety this high. Maybe towards the back end of the draft, they would take a safety just to kind of reinforce things and get more depth at the position. So what you're left with is a lot of positions that the Packers already have covered. And I think that makes it kind of tough to pick at 59 because you don't necessarily want to reach all the way down here, into the 80s when you're picking 59. So, I mean, I would probably look at, someone like Alfred Collins, who's a D lineman. I mean, the Packers need more beef inside anyways. Kenny Clark, they just paid him, and he's not really lived up to the contract, which is interesting because he's been such a dominant player over the course of his career. But you look at the run defense grade here from Alfred Collins, and, that would solve your run stuffing deficiency that we have right now with this defense. And, just look at what Texas produced in the past, with Tavondre Sweat coming out last year. That guy was an absolute house. He's massive. Alfred Collins is the same way. It's the same mold from the same program where they built him to have a similar mentality to what Tavondre Sweat is. So I don't see why you wouldn't take Alfred Collins here and just reestablish that dominant defensive line that the Packers have so desperately needed in key positions over the last couple of years. I mean, it seems like every playoff matchup, the Packers get paper cut to death by the run, and they can't seem to do anything about it. So having beef up front really solves that problem. And, with those first two picks, we just got Shamar Stewart, who is massive, and then Alfred Collins on the interior, who's massive. So you're really reinforcing that defensive line with size and speed. So now at pick 91, Xavier Watts is a phenomenal safety, and we'd be drafting him well after what he's ranked in this mock draft simulator. But I just don't know the Packers really need a safety. Like I said earlier, they got Evan Williams, Javon Bullard, Xavier McKinney. They got guys from last year that are going to be fine in the future. We don't really need an emphasis on that right now. Unless the staff sees something that they don't like with what they have, I don't see any reason why you would take a safety here. And I actually really love Torrey Horton from Colorado State. This year's been a disappointment for him because he's been hurt all year. I mean, he's only played in a few games, but last year he was a 1,100-yard receiver at Colorado State, and he was giving, in the game where they matched up against Colorado, he was giving Colorado's defense a lot of problems last year. So I think that's a guy who you could potentially add to this receiving room and, just guarantee that you have another pass catcher in there because there's a lot of young guys in this receiving room that have bright futures, and I think they'll be Packers for a long time. But, we see a lot of drop issues right now, which is kind of something that we got to get away from. And, at least just adding one more receiver into that room could be a huge plus for this room and make everybody else compete at a higher level and get better. Just, if there's more of a fight for a roster spot, everyone's going to elevate their game in practice and on the field to try to claim that roster spot. So I think Torrey Horton wouldn't be a bad pick here. Blake Miller might be good to get some more help along the offensive line. Although I think this offensive line is pretty good. They've only allowed 12 sacks all season, which is one of the best numbers in the league. I think it actually leads the league in the least amount of sacks allowed. So they're keeping Jordan Love safe and on his feet right now, but you can never have enough offensive linemen. It's a position that's highly volatile in how they perform, and those guys can get hurt quite a bit. If you want to go more of a playmaker, why not Ollie Gordon the second? I know the Packers have Josh Jacobs, but if you can have a guy at least of his caliber who's your second running back, that's really good. I love Emmanuel Wilson. I think he's a high effort guy. He runs hard, but I don't know if he necessarily is a high tier playmaker that can come in while Josh Jacobs needs a rest. And Matt LaFleur already likes to do a platoon at running back anyways. Even when we had Aaron Jones, he would never really run Aaron Jones as hard as many Packer fans would have liked. He would always take him out at key moments and try to sub in other guys. So, I mean, any three of those guys would be a great pick here. But, to me, I'm going to go with Ollie Gordon here. This guy's had a disappointing season as well. That's why he's so far back. But if you look at the stats from 2 years ago, 1,700 rushing yards 2 years ago. That was Heisman level numbers right there. And unfortunately, 800 yards is not too bad, but he's had a rough season. And I don't really know why this would be because Oklahoma State returned everybody on their offensive line. So you would think he would still have just as good of a blocking scheme to run behind. So I'm not sure if he's dealing with an injury or something. I think maybe he was banged up in the BYU game, but that was his best game of the season. So it's I don't know how to approach this, but he really is, he's a big back, 6'2", 225. That's something that the Packers don't really have in this running back room, is that type of size running back. And I think he could absolutely complement Josh Jacobs really well in this offense, and then that would leave Emmanuel Wilson as your third. So you have three really good running backs if you were to take him, and I think that's the play here. Just go with Ollie Gordon, and, establishing a quality run game for Jordan Love is going to help him out so much. It's going to put so much less pressure on his throws, and, it's going to allow this offense to really lean into something and find an identity, which at times I think they struggle with that, is they don't always have an identity. They don't always feel like they can lean on something because everybody's so inconsistent and doesn't execute well. So I think Ollie Gordon, you can't go wrong with that pick. That's going to be really exciting if the Packers do end up getting him. I think, he could replace, potentially be what they drafted Marshawn Lloyd to be we'll see what happens with him. But so far, I'm not really feeling too good about that pick. He just hasn't seen the field at all. He's been hurt. He's been, banged up, dealing with some stuff outside of football. So yeah, that would be a great pick for the Packers there. Here again, a lot of depth guys that it's just tough to pick any of these guys really. But the one that I think we should pick is Logan Jones here from Iowa. This guy is a freak athlete, like one of the best athletes you'll ever see at this position, and that's exactly what the Packers look for. They look for guys with high relative athletic scores. We won't know that yet until the combine, but Logan Jones, I think, he's at Iowa. That's all you need to know. So those guys are road graders off the bat, and look at the grades here, all really good grades. Pass block grade is good. Run block grade is good. And, he's the perfect size for a center. 6'3" is about the sweet spot. That's what you want for a center, because if you're too high up, if you're too tall as a center, a lot of those smaller and more swift pass rushers on the interior can get around you and they have pad leverage on you. So I think 6'3" is the sweet spot where you're right at the perfect pad level to be a good blocker. And, with the way things are, Josh Myers has had his best season as a Packer so far, but I just don't trust the guy. I don't really feel like he can give you much more than what we've already seen from him. So why not take a guy in Logan Jones here who you can reset your window there at center, get him on a rookie contract, and then have him compete with Josh Myers and see if, he gives you anything else, anything you might not have right now. And I think that's a great pick because Iowa's a run-first team. That's pretty much all they do on offense. And so this guy is going to have a lot of reps in that sort of scenario. So I think that's a perfect upgrade for the offensive line. Keeping Jordan Love upright is the biggest priority. You got to have a good offensive line. So far, they've been able to provide that for him, but you never want to let up on that sort of gas pedal, if you will. You want to keep drafting guys into that room that can protect him and be, continue to develop throughout their careers, just like Elton Jenkins has, just like Zach Tom has. Those guys were phenomenal picks and phenomenal job scouting by this organization to even find those guys who a lot of other teams overlooked. So at pick 162, I think the Packers desperately need a cornerback. I mean, we have Jair Alexander, but he's banged up right now. He's got a knee injury, and that's kind of scary because going into the playoffs, you need all of your top-tier players, and behind him, there's not really much that looks good. Carrington Valentine's a really fun player. I think he's a sticky corner. He covers really well. He talks a lot of smack, which is what you want, but he's one guy, and Keyshawn Nixon's repeatedly gotten burned on a lot of plays. He's not the best in the slot. I think that you need to get some more corner help, at least more depth in this spot, because there's always guys that are going to be banged up at corner, and it's probably the hardest position in the NFL to play. So guys are going to struggle, and you're going to need to have another guy fill in when when your other guys aren't working out. So the guy I look at here is Tommy Hill from Nebraska. I mean, he had a pick six against Colorado, which was a really good play, actually. He just picks Shadur off and takes it to the house. He's having a bit of a down year compared to his last couple years, but this guy's still a sticky corner. He's physical off the line. He's got good size for a corner. That's about what the Packers look for in a corner. So I would have no problem taking Tommy Hill here, getting another corner that can be in that room, develop. Jeff Hafley was a defensive backs coach in the past, so maybe he can coach him up and work with him and get him to this spot where he can be a contributor on this defense, because I don't think they're going to bring Eric Stokes back. I mean, what have we seen from him? They picked up his fifth-year option, but he just doesn't look like the guy they drafted, a couple years ago. His rookie year was really good, and he hasn't really followed up with that. So, similar position here at 201. I see another corner I like. I like Jason Marshall Jr. from Florida. I mean, this guy was a high recruit out of high school, really sought after by all of the big programs in college football. But he really struggled his first couple years, just on the field, and, he was getting cooked a lot by receivers. So, he really struggled those first couple seasons, but then has had a really good year this year. He's been a solid corner. And I think he's been, probably Florida's best corner, and they really needed him to emerge as a top guy there, to live up to his recruiting hype. So, I mean, he's missed some games too. I think he's been banged up. Yeah, he really hasn't played that much this season, but this is another guy who's purely developmental. You don't need him to come in and be your corner one right away. I think this is a guy you could get in the room, get working with the staff and potentially be a problem in a couple of years. And that's all you can do is just keep throwing darts at the board here with these corners. And he's also got size, 6'1" for a corner. That's plenty of height for a corner, plenty of range there. So I like this. I like doubling up on corners. You get two young corners that you can work with, and the Packers. We all know last season they had an opportunity to draft Cooper DeJean in the first round, and they drafted Jordan Morgan instead. We'll see how that works out, but Cooper DeJean looks really good for the Eagles right now. And then they traded with the Saints in the second round at pick 41 when they had Kool-Aid McKinstry sitting on the board. So they had two high-level corners sitting on the board, and they didn't take either of them. So it's interesting to see how they approach this position. They really seem to neglect it in the draft, and they kind of relied on taking Kalen King in the 7th round last year to be their savior for this cornerback room, and he's not even on a roster right now. So it'll be interesting to see how they approach this position, but I think that you got to just start getting corners in this room. Otherwise, you're going to be in real big trouble if somebody goes down in the future. I mean, they're already really thin as is. So, yeah. Moving on to pick 241, 3 Colorado receivers here because that Colorado receiving room is absolutely stacked. I mean, there's no shortage of talent there. Joshua Gray was a guy I liked last year, but he came back for another season. As a guard, he was really fun to watch. Him and Talise Fuanga at Oregon State really had a good 1-2 duo there on their offensive line. But, I mean, there's a couple smaller receivers. Tez Johnson's 5'6", Brew McCoy's really small too. I don't know if the Packers really go for those type of receivers. They just if you don't really have size, you're not really going to end up being a Green Bay Packer. That's just kind of the MO of this organization. That's how they draft. Size, speed, strength, youth. That's kind of that's the pillars of their drafts every single season. So, a guy that I would potentially look at right here is Nick Martin from Oklahoma State, and he's been banged up all season, hasn't really played. That's why he's in the 7th round here. But this guy's a phenomenal. He's the vocal leader of the Oklahoma State defense, which has been really good for a couple of seasons now. I mean, Mike Gundy and the staff have built a really good defense at Oklahoma State, and he's a big part of it. He's kind of a hybrid linebacker edge rusher guy, so he's a bit smaller and faster. And the Packers don't really have a guy that's both like that. I mean, Edgerrin Cooper, we know he's really fast, but is he physical and able to, come downhill and make a big hit on a play? We'll have to see, how that works out. And I just don't know if they have a vocal leader on defense at all. I mean, we saw Quay Walker in the Bears game kind of step up and do that, which we had never seen from him before. I'd never really seen him gather the entire defense and kind of try to rally the troops like that. So maybe he'll emerge as that over these next couple of games. But I think you could have, a young guy come in and be a vocal leader of this team. And he's played a lot of football. I think he's a 5th or 6th year senior. So, this guy, this guy has all of the intangibles you would want in a middle linebacker. He's a bit small, though. He's 6 feet, 220. So, not ideal size. But this is one where you kind of got to overlook that. I think that, the football IQ of this guy is really high, and he would be something the Packers just don't necessarily have right now. And this is kind of starting to be the trend, actually, among linebackers anyways. Smaller linebackers are coming into the league. That's just the way it is. You look at Jay Higgins at Iowa. He's 6 foot as well. I think of Jeremiah Trotter Jr. last year, 6 foot even. Barrett Carter this year, 6 foot even. There's a lot of smaller linebackers that are coming into the NFL, and the NFL can only take what college gives it. So I think quicker, faster, smaller linebackers might be becoming a trend in the near future, and that's just something you gotta account for. Get a guy like that in your room. Why not? I mean, this linebacker room really hasn't shown anything this year. I mean, bits and pieces you like to see. You see Isaiah McDuffie make a nice play, but then he makes 3 bad ones in result, and then you see Quay Walker kind of look lost at times. And I mean, he's the king of racking up tackles each game, but are any of them meaningful? None of them are behind the line of scrimmage. They're all 5 yards downfield, So I would say throw another shot into that linebacker room. Just keep trying to energize that room and get guys that are different than anything that we might have on the roster. So with the last pick here, I mean, this is kind of just a shot in the dark. You take you take a guy you might like and hope he becomes something in the future. So I think I'm going to go with a tackle here in Ernest Green. He was another highly recruited guy at Georgia. I mean, what's new there? Georgia's always producing high level talent. They're always getting the best recruits. But he's a bit smaller for a tackle, so I think he's a guy who could kick inside and potentially give the Packers more depth at guard. And this has been the Packers' model over the years. Draft a guy at tackle and move him inside. That's what they're going to do with Jordan Morgan. I fully believe that he's going to end up being a guard. That's just the way it works. And, Elton Jenkins was a tackle at Mississippi State. They moved him interior, and he's been phenomenal as a guard. So I would go with another SEC tackle and move him inside and see what he gives you there. You got to draft at least one lineman in this draft. I know we waited quite a bit to do that, but that's just kind of what successful organizations do. That they draft in the trenches, no matter how much talent they have there. So, as PFF grades this, we'll kind of see what grade we get on this. But I'm sure a lot of times they give you bad grades because you overlook a player that they have ranked higher that wouldn't necessarily fit on the Packers. So I wouldn't be shocked about that. Yeah, like they did not like the Alfred Collins pick. They gave that an F, but the Packers need D-line help. Like, that's just a given. That's how it works. And so yeah, I would take this grade with a grain of salt. But overall, really nice draft here. I like what we've got going here. The Packers mostly don't need skill players right now. I mean, I took Ollie Gordon, but they like their receivers. They have two good tight ends. We've got a franchise quarterback. We've got a franchise running back. It's more just filling in the cracks, making sure that the trenches are staying healthy and young. Because if you kind of neglect those key positions like that are in between, you're going to have holes that show up. I mean, look at the Bengals right now. They're really top heavy. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Trey Hendrickson. But outside of that, they don't really have depth guys that can come in and provide key contributions to that team. So that's what kind of ends up happening to teams that don't end up filling in the gaps with more boring players, if you will. So I really like the two developmental corners we got two in this draft. I think those guys will be a problem in the future and might be part of a really nice young secondary that could be crafting into form here in Green Bay. So overall, really good draft. Thanks for tuning in. I'm sure we'll do more of these as we get closer to draft day. Still not doing any trades until we kind of hear more about what teams might be willing to trade up. Maybe Green Bay would be willing to trade up and get a guy that they see. But overall, a really nice draft, and tune in next time.